Welcome to Black Girl Say Something, where this black girl has something to say. And this episode, I'm going to call it Don't Convince Them. Don't convince them. I was on Facebook and I saw this post and I figured, you know what? Black Girl Say Something. I could definitely share this. It says, normalize not forcing people to choose you. Know your worth and what you have to offer. And never settle for anything less than you deserve. If someone doesn't see the value in having you by their side, don't convince them. And let me tell you something. Getting to this place where I'm not in the mood to convince anybody. I'm not in the mood to convince a job that I'm worth what I'm asking for. I'm not in the mood to convince a potential client that why they should get glasses with me. I'm not in the mood to convince anybody. I am just going to coexist in my greatness and know that I am. And I don't have to convince anybody. I don't have to convince anyone that I'm a good person. I don't have to convince anyone that I'm telling the truth. I don't have to convince anyone. And, it's to the point where being the primary parent for my kids can get a little frustrating. And not being the parent part, but the part where the person who is not the primary parent is doing everything but what they're supposed to do. They're the one that filed for divorce. They are the one who, was being abusive to me. They're the ones that put my children in a situation to witness them being abusive to me, only for them to go out of their way and violate the restraining order by contacting the children. And instead of using that time to ask how they're doing and ask how life is going, you use that time to bash and question them about me. And it's one of those things where I hear a lot of talk about on TikTok, and I've heard before, even while I was married to my children's father or in the marriage, I would hear, I had friends who are single moms, and I would hear them say, I don't convince my kids, that their dad is not a good person. Or, and I would always say, at some point you're going to have to tell them, because it creates a sense of disappointment. And now I'm in that place. That's not the advice that I have, Of course, I've never told him anything bad about him. When they say, I hope he's doing good, I hope so too. Because if he's doing good, then he could, when everything is said and done, he could pay child support. Or when everything is said and done, you guys can spend time with him if he's doing the work and going to get therapy. So I'm pro him doing good. What I'm not pro is him being not the primary parent and then trying to convince my children, and more specifically my son, that he is, that everything that I've done was wrong. And so I'm so proud of my children, because at the end of the day, with everything that is going on and with everything that is happening, they know that I'm a safe space, that they could come and share this with me and let me know that this has been going on, and why would he say this about you? Because you don't lie to us. And I find it so interesting that they have an understanding of me being their safe space, and me being as understanding and as forthcoming with information to the level that they can understand, that they felt the need to share that with me. And it's to the point where I didn't have to convince my children that I'm the better parent than him, because it was never about who's better. It's about me getting mentally well enough and me realizing my own worth, and that I didn't deserve what I had allowed for so long. And so a good tree is going to bear good fruit. I don't have to convince anybody that I'm doing a good job with my children. My children are showing me that I'm doing a good job with them. I don't have to convince their dad that he didn't understand why. He still to this day doesn't understand why I don't want to be with him. And so it's like, it's 2023. We're going to stop convincing people that we're doing good. There's a lady who I'm friends with on Facebook. We're friends in real life. But she was like, if you have a child between 3rd grade and 5th grade, Send them with $20. It's going to be on a Saturday. I'm going to teach them something, and they'll come back and tell you what I taught. Let me tell you something. This lady, I've yet to get her on the podcast as a guest. But when I think about her children, and they're adults, so she has 3 boys. When I think about her 3 boys and who they have become as adults, it shows who she was as a parent to them, how she raised them, how they were raised. And at the end of the day, they're upstanding gentlemen. They understand credit. They understand, and I mean, they're not even in their 30s yet. I'm pretty sure they're like early 20s. But these are young men with education, degrees, and I've had the pleasure of assisting one of them with a school project, and just so polite, mannerable. So at the end of the day, those are the things that I think about, the soft qualities of my children, the things that can't necessarily be taught, but at the same time, you can teach them. But a lot of times I've come to find parents tend to teach their children these traits that they don't even carry. So me being an honest person emulates to my children, and so they're honest with me. Me showing them that I'm trustworthy turns over to them being able to trust me. And so I don't have to convince my children that I'm making the right choice for them, because making the right choice for them will show in the choice when it's made. And so being a person who's always having to convince people, like, I told you in previous episodes, if you are a subscriber, you're going to hear about the dating diary stuff. But it's so funny because he even went as far as to tell my son, does she have any men? He said men. Does your mom have any men coming over there? Because she shouldn't, because our divorce is not final. And my son was like, but that's crazy because daddy has a girlfriend. So why doesn't he want you to date other people? And I couldn't really give him an answer, but in short, it's because of control. And, I know people use this word so loosely about narcissism and all of that. I mean, unless you're clinically diagnosed a narcissist, at the end of the day, people are just who they are. There's people who are just not good people. And I tell my kids, I'm not going to sit here and say, I hate your dad, because I don't. Because that would put me in a position where I would hate part of you, and I don't hate you. I don't hate y'all. I love y'all very much. I just can't love your dad in the way that I used to. And so I have to love me more that I want to be divorced. I had to love me more that I realized I was being abused, and I had to get a restraining order. And, him beating me to the punch and filing for divorce was in retaliation to be able to say, and what he asked for, of course, like I mentioned in previous episodes, was to have this household and to have full custody of the children. The thing is, you having full custody of the children, even now you don't have custody of them at all. You have nothing to show for the year that we have not been together. And for me, I'm too busy living a good life that I don't have time to be mad about the little insignificant things. Minor inconveniences don't attack me as hard as they used to, because there's so much good happening in my life, and I'm getting therapy, and I'm exercising, and I'm regulating my emotions, and I'm journaling, and I'm praying, and I'm meditating, and I'm saying my affirmations, and I'm conditioning my mind to think on the highest frequency possible. Because at the end of the day, when it came down to being with him, I could never be excited about the good things that would happen in my life. Now, when people ask me about my business, it is a big deal. When they ask me about this promotion that I received at this university, it is a big deal. I can enjoy those things and all that comes with it. I don't have to minimize it. I don't have to act like it's minuscule. I don't have to act like it's micro when it's really on the macro level. So let's just stop convincing people. It's 2023. It's February. Let this be your reminder for the month. Don't convince them. You don't have to. You don't have to convince the job that you're worth it. You don't have to. Let me tell you something. I thought so big that when I got this job, when they was asking me to go for this promotion, I walked in to the interview. I was already working there. I go into the interview, and I remember doing the application, and I threw out the biggest number that came to my mind. Not because I because I knew that's what I was worth, and that's what was going to give me a better life for me and my children. And not to say that my life the last year was without struggle, but it's one thing to struggle by yourself with your children. It's another thing to struggle with your children and you're married and you're attached to this person who is supposed to be a part of the team, but you're facing so many struggles alone because when you mention it to them, they can't help you. And so it's a different level of struggle. And so life for the last year for me came with some sense of ease. And so I was like, you know what would make it a lot easier and what I could do to aid in my business, aid in my children getting back into their extracurriculars and things like that. This is the number that I'm going to ask for. And I asked for it and I got it with no negotiation, no questions asked. As a matter of fact, with a supplement. And so that's just a testament or a testimony for me that what I want, I can have. And I think I've said that on a episode before. What you want, you can have. You just got to ask for it. And I think a lot of times we settle ourselves short because we want to be in this place where we're trying to convince the people. But I wasn't going to go out my way to convince them that that's what I was worth. Because I had already set up in myself that if they didn't give me that, I'm not taking it. If they didn't give it to me, I wasn't going to take it. So they gave it to me and I took it. And I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. And I signed a 6-month contract. And will I renew? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know yet. Because I'm still getting acclimated to what this job even requires for me. I love the teaching part. But again, the administrative part, it's a lot. But I did do my first graduation application the other day. And so I was excited about that. Pat on the back for me because I know how, strategic you have to be to get to graduation. I've graduated a number of times. And so to help, of course, I'm at an HBCU. So to help another Black girl get ready for graduation, that warmed my heart. And she was so excited. Her eyes lit up when I was like, we finished. I submitted it. Now I just got to wait to hear back from the dean for the approval. But it's an amazing experience. And I am not in this place, interestingly enough, I'm not in this place where I don't want to convince anybody. I don't want to convince you that I can do the job. I don't want to convince you that you're getting your glasses with me, that you'll see. I don't want to convince you to work with me. I don't want to convince you that I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I don't want to convince you that I'm that girl that's doing it. I worked hard to get here. When I say, I deserve a life of ease, I don't want to convince you that I had such a treacherous, hard life back in the day, and that's why I deserve a life of ease now. I don't want to convince you. You should want me to have a life of ease because you want a life of ease. I want a life of ease for you too. So anybody that's in my space, I'm not in a place mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to be convincing them. And I think it goes back to even when I used to have friends or when I would make friends, I used to go out my way to show them that I would ride for them, that I'm there for them, so much so that I would be there more for them than I would be for myself. And it wasn't until I started to develop a better friendship, a better relationship with myself is where I am now to be able to say, I don't have to convince anybody that I'm going to be a good friend to them. I just am. And there's people around me that I didn't even know, it's until I hear from other people. There's people that speak so highly of me. And I'm like, wow, I never really had to convince those people. But there's people who I went out my way to convince. Those are the people that speak so poorly about me. And so, yeah, stop convincing them. Don't do it. It's ghetto. You don't have to convince anybody of your worth. The people who genuinely can see you for who you are won't need any convincing. So I encourage you, if something was said on this episode, share it with at least one person. Remember, you can tune into Black Girl Say Something every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can tune in on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, and Amazon Music, and also Podvine. And there will be a link in the description. If you click that link, it gives you access to exclusive episode. It's subscriber-only content. It does come with a monthly subscription. And that's where I'll be doing the dating diaries, because it's the month of February. It's love month. So I got to fill y'all in on what's been going on the last few months in that arena of my life, because my therapist did highly recommend that it's something that I do. So I've been doing it, and it's been interesting. It's been fun, though. I've actually had fun. So thank you for listening.